Swaziland. You could have.
All right, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum, shalom. Welcome, family. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, today our topic is the militant nature of the black man. The militant nature of the black man. Peace and blessings, Doc. How's it going, bro?
Oh, it's going well, man. Glad to see you here.
Yes, sir.
See you here, man.
So our topic is today the militant nature of the black man. We want to talk about that for the first hour, and then we're going to go into some different situations that's going on around in America that the black man has to either succumb to, destroy, or run away from. And we're going to look at some different examples of, to get an understanding of exactly what is militancy. So, Doc, when you hear the term a militant black man, or even the term the black man's nature is the black man is militant by nature, what do you think about that?
One of my biggest pet peeves is actually the use of the word of militant. I introduce my students to, right now I'm actually teaching a class on Malcolm, on Malcolm's life. And I've structured this class so that we're really dealing with the history of Black nationalism. They started with David Walker, Mariah Stewart, and we worked our way all the way through Nat Turner, Booker T. Washington, Du Bois. And now we're actually in the class right now, we're at Brother Marcus Garvey. One of the things that I always do, and I'm trying to glean an understanding of where my students are as far as their knowledge base goes. And I always ask them about Malcolm and Martin. That's sort of my litmus test. And invariably they'll say, well, Dr. King was for good, or he was nonviolent, and Malcolm was militant. And when they're pressed to talk about what it is they're actually talking about, they can mumble really a coherent, logical sentence. So I think that the word militant has become sort of the black man's version of crazy.
Mm.
It's a label that's put on top of us at every turn. That if you are self-righteous, if you are capable of mustering up righteous indignation, you're militant. If you stand for something and you have the courage to not have any real concern about who's in the room when you address it, you're a militant. One of the recent debates that I had with in the academy is this idea of we were talking about human suffering, and I sat there and listened to the other individuals on the dais talk about the Holocaust when they were asked what is the biggest atrocity, and they would say the Holocaust. And when it got to me, I said, well, I don't want to answer it because my answer is also the Holocaust, but I'm talking about the African Holocaust. And I would like to ask the other participants a question. Which Holocaust are you talking about? And before they could answer, I just said, I take it for granted that you've been informed of something I haven't, and it is that the Jews have trademarked the word Holocaust, apparently, and it's their sole use. So to even say something like that, let alone an action, puts you in the militant category. And for me, I consider the term amongst the learned to be one of the highest titles one could have ascribed to their character. But amongst the illiterate dum-dums, I consider it to be as derisive of a term as any other dismissive term.
Okay. Excellent. And I want to take time to welcome Brother Willie Rivers to the program. Peace and blessings, big bro. Glad you're here with us. So, Doc, in our, I guess, entanglement with the word militant as a people, I was doing some research on it, and from what I guess Temple University has come up with about militancy and where did it come from. I'm gonna share screen and let's look at
what year is this definition from? Coming from Temple, because it makes a difference.
It doesn't on this article. It doesn't give a year.
Okay, whose is it then?
It says the materials on this site is provided for private research, use, and the protection of the copyright laws of the United States for the purpose of repossession material, copyright guide.
No, I mean, is the definition of quote attributed to one person?
No, I can't even find out. I'm gonna share the screen so you can see it, because I can't even see who wrote the damn thing.
Yeah, because see, there's some when you talk about Temple, you're by and large talking about individuals who've come up in the cultural nationalist, Pan-Africanist thing. I have some colleagues that I went to Ohio State with, who matriculated with their PhD through Temple and were there with Malefe Sante. Temple was the gold standard for a while. The brother that was down here, brother I still love, and I hate that he's no longer with us, James Conyers, he matriculated out of Temple as well. Greg Carr, brother that's the head of Howard, matriculated out of Temple. So Temple is well represented in the world of Africana studies. And also shout out to one of my old classmates, Erin. She also is at Temple.
You know, I ran into Mark Lamont Hill.
Mark Lamont Hill.
And me and him had some back and forths on Twitter.
Yeah, crybaby. Remember Mark Lamont Hill got up on CNN. Was it CNN or BET crying? Couldn't be consoled. Yeah.
And when he looked at me, I could tell he knew who I was, because he was shocked, and he was like, looking at me, and I'm just like, yeah, hey, how's it going, brother? It kept it moving, and I'm still, as I'm walking, I'm looking, and he's just, shocked that he see me, because I was lighting his ass up on that Twitter. Okay? Ain't no ifs, ands, and buts about it. But in this article here, where it talks about militancy, and let's see, let me blow it up. It says Black militancy in turn gave rise to Black nationalism and Black power movements, intertwined ideologies that encourage African Americans to take pride in their culture, seize power for themselves rather than relying on whites and whites institutions. So what was the beginning of the Black militancy? What was its ideology that was intertwined between Black nationalism and Black power movements?
The idea that if I can glean, be given the room to glean and interpret what Temple has written right here, the idea of Black militancy, I would argue, actually began, and when we're talking about Black, I'm reserving it solely. I want to reserve it solely to our people here. What do they call them? American descendants of slavery, ADOS.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that it begins in 1619 when that first ship is going to be commandeered. A ship coming out of the Caribbean is commandeered by pirates, and they're stealing rum. The Caribbean, they were growing sugar, they were making rum. This ship is going to be commandeered, and unfortunately, I think the number that they finally settled on was 13 Africans that were in the Caribbean. Once again, were aboard the ship that had been taken hostage, and that 13 is what was delivered to Jamestown and sold to the Jamestown colony. And these individuals, the British colonies don't have, and really, to be honest with you, most nations don't have a comprehension of slavery or enslavement. So this initial parcel that's going to make its way into Jamestown, they're going to be given what is one of the most maddening oxymoronish statuses that one could ever have. And I would argue that this is where Black militancy begins. This would be the roots of it, beginning from the moment that we set foot in this soil. That status that I'm alluding to is half free.
Mm.
They're not enslaved, but they're not free. They're half free. Now, what in the world does that mean? The truth of the matter is no one knows. They don't belong to anyone. They belong to the colony. And if you needed some work done, something built, you could get them and have them assist you, but you had to pay them. And that sort of throws a monkey wrench into what we lazily construct about the institution of American slavery. And if you did not pay them, they would take you to court and would probably win. And so here you have these Black men who are trying to carve out a life there. And a crucial part of happiness is going to be finding a mate. And there are no African women there. So many of them are going to mate with immigrant women, white European immigrant women. So we have this situation of now you have children being born. What's the status of the children? And so we go through piece by piece by piece by piece. What exactly are we building? What is these? So I would argue it's in that undefined space that Black militancy is going to be birthed. Because of course, if you go forward, you're going to have Bacon's Rebellion. Then you're going to have this significant emphasis of race and racial differences. So that unlike British law, where child status follows the father in the colonies, your status will follow the mother, giving white men free access to Black women, and preventing Black men from having access to white women at all. So it's in that space that I believe that militancy is birthed. Then you're going to have individuals like Gabriel. You're going to have Nat. You're going to have David Walker. You're going to have Mariah Stewart. You're going to eventually have Ida B. Wells Barnett. So I would argue that for many of them, that's the beginning of Black militancy. But I would also argue that the development of maroon societies where we're off the official grounds of the plantation doing our own thing is a Black nationalist movement. And it's certainly a Black power movement at the exact same time. So I don't separate and delineate so much between Black power rights and Black nationalists. I consider them every Black power right has to be a Black nationalist. Period. Otherwise, they're violating the basic tenets of the political ideology.
Was Martin Luther King a militant in your estimation?
From my definition of militancy, I would argue yes. I would argue King was. And the reason that I argue that King was is because I know the actual King. I know King beyond what he was saying in the pulpit. And much of the stuff that was said in the pulpit was in many ways polarizing, scandalous. And you got to remember that one of the things that King and Malcolm have in common with each other is neither one of them were beloved while they were alive. Not by the masses of Black folk. And an argument could be made that Malcolm was more beloved than King. One of my consistent arguments that I have about Dr. King is that the March on Washington speech that quote unquote Mahalia Jackson called "I Have a Dream" medley that he goes into was the worst thing that could have happened to King's legacy, because we freeze him in 63. King lives another 5 years before they blow his brains out. What was he saying in those 5 years? I ain't gonna study war no more. It seems to me that a nation that has done something special against the Negro for so long would not have a problem with doing something special for the Negro for a specified time or period. King is calling for reparations, but we never hear that talked about, because the idea of King, the militant side of King, the strong, strident, uncompromising side of King has been sanitized. And if you talk to those, if you read some of the writings of those who knew King, I just did an article on Robert F. Williams and the use of armaments within the Black freedom struggle. And one of the quotes I came across was quite simply that if you went to Dr. King's house, if you go to Dr. King, Robert Epps, I'll deal with that. If you go to Dr. King's house, it looked like an armory. And why wouldn't it? You know, I often challenge my students and I talk to them about the idea that who had a gun on them at every moment? King or X? It's King. It's King, because he knew these people were going to kill him. Okay. What?
So, Doc, are you saying when King, who had the gun on him all the time, are you saying King carried, or the gun was pointed?
Oh, no. King carried the gun. Yeah. King carried a gun. All right. When you think about these situations that he was in and how his life was consistently threatened, Dr. King often had a gun on him. Often.
Well, let me ask you then, Doc, if that's so, why would he get so upset at the youth that was throwing the rocks in Memphis and broke out a few windows?
What do you mean?
You know, for the march on in Memphis, when they were doing it for the sanitation
workers. Sanitation. Right. Yeah, Dr. King is always talking about the idea of maintaining one's dignity, because as a Christian, it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to win, that the arc of justice may be long and slow, but it always bends towards the righteous. That's totally different from if one of these fools come up in here and try and do something to my wife or one of my kids, I'm going to have to do something. The idea that King is not on the front lines of the struggle for Black folk because he's talking about nonviolent civil disobedience, people are reading that the wrong way. Okay? The wrong way. Think about how courageous that actually is. And what King is doing with nonviolent civil disobedience, King understood something early on, taught to him by Barrett Rustin. And it is quite simply, and Fred Shuttlesworth says this on video. He says, these people, you know, when you playing a game of baseball, these teams ain't gonna put themselves out. You got to strike them out. So what King is actually doing with nonviolent civil disobedience is a masterful, wonderful PR campaign. He knows the South is not going to regulate themselves. They're just not going to. One could argue that if we follow the constructs of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, that these people are devils. They're beyond redemption. And you think you're going to be able to moralize with them? No. Same thing that John Brown came to the conclusion with. That you ain't going to never come up with no argument, no convincing argument that's going to convince these white folk to let Black folk go. No, if you want them to go, you want them to go free, you got to have some action. And what King is doing is he's exposing what is happening throughout the South. Because think about it. Why do we still talk about the civil rights movement? We still talk about the civil rights movement because it was captured on film. That's why we still talk about it. And you can credit King for that. Because King is exposing it through protests, through actions, through marches, through every medium that you could imagine. King knows that it's not going to be convincing to white Southerners, especially the bigoted portion of white Southern society. He's aiming for the international audience. He's aiming for the non-Southern audience. Okay? But the idea that King is not a militant, we haven't looked at King correctly then. Okay? Because King is stridently working towards the liberation of Black folk. And that's a process. That's a process that really accelerated after the March on Washington, because there comes a moment where Dr. King no longer believes. He doesn't believe these white folk are going to be are redeemed, that you can redeem them, because many of them have displayed for far too long unregenerate evil. King's only thing is it's not all of them. They weren't born that way. But he understood that the majority of them were that way. And those are two different things.
I want to take a second to welcome in the Deacons of Reality, Deacon of Reality, peace and blessing. Brother Robert Epps, peace and blessings. Twin Pyramid, peace and blessings. The Forecast, peace and blessings. Welcome everybody to the program. And our topic tonight is the militant nature of the Black man. And right now we're talking about Dr. King. And Doc was saying that Dr. King was in fact a militant. But Doc, I'm trying to share this so you could see it yourself. This is a quote from Dr. King, and I'll just read it here. It says, "Violence as a way of achieving racial justice is both impractical and immoral. I am not unmindful of the fact that violence often brings about momentary results. Nations have frequently won their independence in battle, but in spite of temporary victories, violence never brings permanent peace. It solves no social problem. It merely creates new and more complicated ones. Violence is impractical because it is descending spiral ending in the destruction of all. for all. It is immoral because it seeks to humiliate the opponent rather than win his understanding. It seeks to annihilate rather to convert. Violence is immoral because it thrives on hatred rather than love. It destroys community and makes brotherhood impossible. It leaves society in a monologue rather than a dialogue. Violence ends up defeating itself. Now, that's Dr. King. That's his words that he spoke to the public.
Yeah.
Now you're telling us.
But wait a minute. Who's King talking to?
He's talking to the public.
No, who's King talking to, and what's he actually saying?
Well, to my of this quote, he's talking to the public. He's not behind no closed door. He out there talking in public, saying these things about violence. And I know I saw a video where King was talking about violence, and he was, I'm not going to use violence, and he was just going off about it, And so to me,
that's classic Baird Rustin right there. Classic. Okay, but what I'm asking and what I'm pointing out is quite simply, King is not necessarily talking to black folk right there.
Who are you talking to?
Read that again and see who he's really talking to. King is very clear when he's talking about the use of violence. When he calls violence a very immoral position, he ain't talking to us. We're not the ones that are being violent. You got to remember that black folk really don't explode. King doesn't lose control of the movement until 5 days after LBJ signs the Voting Rights Act. That's when the Watts Rebellion occurs. And that's when it becomes very clear that King's battle across the Southern Theater is at best a partial portrait of America, because it does nothing to address Black urban non-Southern America. It's the reason why King got his ass kicked when he went to Chicago. Okay, the Daily Machine wore King's ass out. Okay, you have to really think about also the fact of many people like to link up King with the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi. That's an error. They need to look at the teachings of Baird Rustin. It's Rustin that is much, much, much more influential in teaching King about how to use nonviolent civil disobedience in the South. Gandhi is talking about the British in India. The Indians, the Indians, they outnumber the British troops. And if you read the history of that battle, British soldiers would come back and say they were absolutely exhausted from whooping on Indians all damn day. Exhausted to almost death because there's so many of them. King understands they would kill us. If we tried that, they would relish in killing us with the violence. They're wishing that we would do that. King understands the fact that he carried a gun. King understands the difference between violence, righteous violence, self-defense, and being proactively violent. And Black folk are not necessarily calling for a violent attack. When you look at the continuation of the March Against Fear, James Meredith's march, where Meredith got shot on the first day. During the continuation of that march, we have Stokely Carmichael talking. Stokely's talking with King. Stokely's representing by that time the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. King is still representing SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And King makes this point, because Willie Ricks, a SNCC worker, what's up, Willie Ricks? Um, he debuts the slogan of Black Power. What do you want? Black Power. When do you want it now? Which went against the idea of freedom now. King says this about Black Power. He said it's the kind of that there's nothing wrong with power and Black folk having power. He said the problem is that basically in the white mind, when you put those two things together, the connotation is wrong. But if Black Power means simply Black folk doing their part to uplift themselves and to better the nation, I'm all for it. He just didn't want the connotation of Black Power being associated so closely with what white power was, which is raw, unmitigated, uncontrollable violence against anyone it's directed at.
I'm not convinced.
Go ahead.
Because when and I wish I could remember what video where King was very against against violence and very
King's gonna always be against violence. I'm not saying that King wasn't against violence. I'm not saying King called for violence. What I am saying though is that even with King, there's an understanding of self-defense. Many people read King wrong and think that what King is actually talking about is going out and getting slaughtered. That's not what King is talking about. That's not what he's hoping for. Of course, that's not what he's hoping for. But now, should we have our version of the Ku Klux Klan going out lynching and killing white folk? King's not going to sanction that. Okay. However, do you not think that King was comforted by the presence of groups like the Deacons for Defense and Justice, Christian ministers who drew a line and said, you will not come into our communities and do unmitigated harm? Hell, King had an arsenal in his own home.
But Doc, if he had, and I'm not saying that he didn't, but I'm just saying, because I listened to the speech he did called the knock at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And he talking about the phone calls of, we're going to blow your house up and we're going to do this and do that and do that. And he was scared. Yeah. And like I said, he got down on his knees.
He should have been scared.
God, yeah. But if King had all of this firepower mm-hmm. in his house to protect his family, mm-hmm. then why he didn't come out and say, at least to his followers, get a gun and protect yourself? Why he want to lead this, nonviolence and all this bullshit? The reality is he packed and ready to open fire on people.
Yeah, nonviolent civil disobedience is merely a part of a larger campaign, a public relations campaign that is painting Black folk as the ultimate victims. Look at what these people are doing to us. This is a message that ABC, NBC, CBS are going to broadcast across the nation on a nightly basis. It's the reason why people sympathize with Black folk. Now, the moment, and we talked about this, but it was in a different context where we were talking about, was it Benjamin Netanyahu who talked crazy to Obama at the White House? Mm-hmm. And you said, man, I would have towed his ass up and blah. And my thing was, if Obama can't do that and remain the leader of the free world, because he's carrying the weight, fairly or unfairly, of all of the pre-existing notions of how Black folk act. Okay? King can't come out and order his people to show what they can do. Okay, because come on, is it unheard of for black folk to be in church at 12 o'clock noon, praising the Lord and thanking the Lord for everything, and by 2 o'clock be out somewhere hunting? Them two things are not mutually exclusive. We know that white Southerners did the exact same thing, and white Southern culture and black Southern culture, it really ain't that different from each other. White folk were coming into the church with guns. Hell, shit. I'd be scared to go to a church meeting, black or white, if they were allowed to have guns up in there. And they talking about the church budget and how stuff is going to be allocated. It can get real funky up in there. But with Dr. King, he stays with the idea of nonviolent. We're going to be nonviolent. We're going to boom, 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 boom. Because to break that means to destroy the public relations campaign that he's been running the entire time. Because now it just looks like a civil war between black and white across the South.
You know, when we look at, you know, just to deal with the issue with.
Wait a minute. Let me ask you this question.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever had an account of whites coming up in Dr. King's house and doing something?
Yeah.
When? Who broke in?
No, I don't know about them actually breaking in.
That's my point. That's my point right there. Now they put a bomb outside. Mm-hmm. Take your ass up in there. Why don't they go in? Because if Dr. King is defenseless, if Dr. King is just a willing victim, take your ass up in there and rape Coretta. Send a message that way. That never occurred. Why?
I don't know, but I don't know if I feel comfortable enough to say, because he had weapons in his home. That just, I don't know. Just,
why do you think that was? Why do you want to de-arm Dr. King?
No, I mean, I don't want to de-arm him, but my thing is, if you're gonna be that way in private, mm-hmm. you're gonna make sure your home, you got guns in your house, then shit, you need to be telling black people, hey, look, you prepare yourself if they want to run up in your house to blow their ass away. Instead of telling black people, turn the other cheek. Let's love them enough till they get the understanding. That's two different messages.
No, it isn't. Because in every way, when you deal
two different messages.
When you deal with the black church and black institutions right now, correct? Is it wise to share with your enemy, your avowed enemy? And we all have to have the ability to have sub-discourse. You know, just like I know, that there is a segment of American citizens that would prefer to see us dead than alive. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do we have to go out in public? Do we have to put the police, who are a part of that segment, do we have to inform them of what we got at home?
Well, if you buy it legally, you've already informed them of what you got at home.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, within our meetings, within our institutions, within black churches, what have you, because keep in mind, especially if you're talking about the South, you're talking about some good old boys mm-hmm. who've always been armed, who've always been hunting. Mm-hmm. Our marginalized economic status has almost mandated that our people went out and hunted mm-hmm. and shot. You don't need an official public statement of black people arm yourself. Hell, they already armed.
Go ahead, Doc. Finish saying what you
No,
saying.
I'm just saying that they're already armed. Black folk are already armed. Yeah, and keep in mind, let's not over Christian our people. There are black folk who are members of the same denomination that I've been a member of since COVID. Bedside Baptist. Okay. We still have Christian leanings. We still, we'll listen to a sermon on YouTube or something, but we haven't physically gone back to the church for whatever reason. Now, in saying that, I think that we have a culture that includes the church, includes black organizations, but we also have a culture that predates that. And I would often argue supersedes that. Down here where I'm at now in Houston, they have a trail ride. These black folk down here, hell, they riding horses still. And if they're riding horses, they're carrying guns. But they're not out in public saying, yeah, we got guns, blah, blah, blah. But you know that they have them in their homes, in their cars, on their persons. There are more guns. I think there's 3 times as many guns in Texas than there are people.
So then if we're to take your point that Dr. King was packing at home and he was prepared to use violence to defend his home. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm not saying that that's wrong at all. I'm saying that's the way you need to be. You need to be able to defend your family, protect your family.
Yeah, I mean,
but I am saying that he was a hypocrite. That you go before the world and you tell our people, don't be violent. Violence begets nothing. Violence ain't gonna solve nothing. But yet at home, you ready to use violence if somebody come through that door.
Yeah.
That's a hypocritical statement.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
That is not hypocrisy. That is not hypocrisy.
Yes.
No. If you're playing everything, if you're talking about us not being able to have conversations amongst other black leaders, okay, us not being able to have black gun groups, like the article I was talking about earlier that I worked on, Robert F. Williams, okay, infamous book Negroes with Guns. Robert F. Williams shocked them white folk down there in North Carolina because he actually got one of the first NRA rifle clubs, sanctioned rifle clubs there. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you have those things going on within the black community, within even the Christian church.
But that's not King endorsing it, supporting it. He was against that.
No, he wasn't against he wasn't against protecting yourself. But he can't come out in public and talk in front of media and say, I believe that black folk need to go get guns. Because in many ways, that would unleash the hellhounds at a greater rate than they already were attacking black folk. Because now they would have the idea of black folk, then they got guns, so we got to defend ourselves, and you would have had a civil war. What Dr. King is banking on, once again, is getting outsiders who are going to have some sympathy regarding black folk to step into this fray in a significant way, legislatively and what have you. I don't see those as being hypocritical.
No, it is definitely hypocritical because he tells black people to turn the other cheek. They have classes where they were teaching them how to accept being spit on, how to accept somebody punching you in your face, how to accept somebody throwing food on you, how to accept the unacceptable.
The sit-in movement, yeah.
Yeah, they teaching our people to accept the unacceptable, is doctrinating their minds that go ahead and accept it because these your white brothers.
It's a no. It's a larger strategy. It's a larger strategy afoot, And I'll give you the classic example, because you were talking about basically what the students who participated in the sit-in movement went through when they went through this training, Highlander Folk School. They went through a civil rights training of how to accept this and what have you. Now, having said that, there's a great story where one of the news cameramen, he's down there in Nashville, Tennessee, and he's taking pictures, okay, for their newspaper. And he says that he sees, because the students of SNCC have been getting whoopings down at the diner, and he sees this mass group, as he calls them, of African American males who come up, and they turn the corner. He's taking pictures of them, and he says that some white guys run up on him and try and attack him. And the brothers, as you would put it, they whoop that ass, okay. And one of the white guys that's being beaten, he gets out. So who are you guys? Who are you? Because they're used to them being nonviolent, okay. And the reporter said, the photographer says, the brother in the midst of whooping ass said, "We the Union Army, and we didn't come to free the slaves." So at the same time that you have, because everyone can't be involved in the sit-ins, because they're not built that way. There's some that if you put your hand on them, they're gonna whoop that ass. And then you have others that are like, I'm going to sacrifice for a larger cause. We will do what we have to do right now so that we can do what we want to do later. And those are two different sides of a coin. I'm not going to call them the same coin. They're just built different. So on the one hand, with Dr. King, once again, you're dealing with a public face. And this is one of the things that FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover always took King to task for. He says King has multiple faces. On the one hand, the public face is the Christian king. Behind the scenes is the heathen king, the communist, the socialist, the sex addict, okay, the violent individual. And Hoover always threatened to expose King for that, okay? So I just see King as he understands what he has to say in public. But I don't believe that the idea of being long-suffering, the idea of taking these whoopings, is all a part of the strategy of nonviolent civil disobedience. Nothing more, nothing less. Yet when King went home, and sometimes when he was out and about, King was carrying a gun.
I think he could have done better for himself and for our people. Even if he just said, look here, if they coming in your house, you whoop their ass. You light their ass up. But give them what they looking for.
Yeah, but I think that goes without being said.
No, it don't. Not when you out there saying, be peaceful, turn the other cheek, don't be violent, be nice, be loving. When you start off with that foolishness, you marching your people to death.
If you can't be nonviolent, don't get in it.
True, but he also saying
that's King.
Yeah, but he also saying be nonviolent. He also saying be nonviolent.
If you can't be nonviolent, don't get in it. Okay. Which is in many ways an admission that many of our people are not going to be nonviolent. King is aware that there's a segment. King probably got people in his own family who approach it from a stance of, I wish a cracker would. We've always had that. We've always had to have, they refer to it as code switching. We've always had to put our best foot forward because, once again, like the Obama situation, you're going to be just castigated for saying what you know you should and you want to say. However, look at Brother Malcolm. And that was Brother Malcolm. That was one of the genius aspects of both of them. Okay. If you don't want to deal with King, we got another brother outside who'd like to talk to you, and you don't want to deal with him. And of course, with Malcolm, you got the entire Nation of Islam coming with you. You want to deal with them? It's a hell of a strategy to make you more appealing, more amenable to what? Acting right, doing right. I just see King, the public king, not being the total king. That's not him in his entirety, I'm telling you.
I don't know. I have a problem with you being one way at home, but out before our people, you being a totally different way that you don't even live at home. But you telling our people to live this way. That to me, that's a problem. That's a major problem. I mean, that's integrity. That talks about integrity. Who are you? The way you supposed to, the way you are, you should be that way 24/7. Where you are at home, that's where you are out there. Now it's a different thing. It's a different thing if you going to work and you got to go work for the cracker. Then yeah, you ain't gonna be up there calling the cracker while you at work.
It ain't much.
When you away from the job and you doing you, oh yeah, you're gonna be how it is, and you're gonna teach how you teach. You're gonna lead how you lead.
No. It's very similar to Booker T. Washington. You can't break character, because to break character is going to have phenomenal consequences. You can't break character being in the public eye. You can't. And it's because much of what King is doing rests upon, same thing with Booker T. Washington, rests upon an association with white folk. Okay. JFK, especially LBJ. Okay. Much of what he's doing rests upon that. This is in many ways a PR campaign, man. And you gotta be fair to him and say that he's playing the game, almost as if it's a game of chess. King can't come out and in any way endorse violence. He just can't. Now the separation of who is king in his public life and who is king in actuality, when he sheds everything off, that's something that because King, once again, what we know of King and what is championed and propagated of King is only a small sliver of who this man actually is, of what he actually believes.
There was I wanted to touch back on the point that you talked about Obama and Netanyahu, because even I forget the cracker name who she was a white woman married to the dude over the Fed. Well, one of the past dudes over the Fed
that took him to task at the airport.
No, this one, she was like, Netanyahu came to Obama and talked to him like a boy in his own house. And this is the news reporter saying how Netanyahu disrespected President Obama.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're the president of the quote unquote free world, and you let this cracker come in your house and talk shit to you in front your face and on the fucking TV, and then the news reporter say he talked to him like he's a boy. He talked to him like he a dog, and you accept this. See, this is where the what we talked about last week, the burden that black people carry because they got to meet the expectations of white folk. We got to
Yes.
meet their expectations. So I got to carry that burden that I got to stay in character. Fuck that. Tell that motherfucker, get the fuck out of here. Lock his ass up. Tell that son of a bitch, take your black and your cracker ass somewhere else before I throw your ass in
But
jail.
see,
Snatch all the goddamn funding from your little pathetic ass.
but
Anyway.
but let's be clear. Psychologically, okay, because that's how we see it. But psychologically, are black people, just speaking in general, capable of doing that in front of what in front of white folk? No. I'm not saying is it possible? I am saying with what you know about the psyche and the fear that our people have of white folk, a fear that we don't even know where it even comes from. It's that ingrained. Okay. Are they capable of doing that?
They will be.
No. Are they capable of doing that?
The right message. If they're constantly hearing the right, that's why I say all the time.
But no, you can't say if they're hearing. Talk about the message that they've heard. They've been.
And King is the problem with that, because that nigga was talking about be peaceful and turn the other cheek and let them whoop your ass if they break your the right side of your jaw. Turn, let them bust you on your left side. Instead of bracing the reality of who he really was, which is, if you come in my house, I'm gonna put a bullet in your ass. And that's what he should have been saying. Look here, them crackers come to your house, put a bullet in their ass, send them running away. Let them understand you want to get some, you're gonna take some. And our people will probably be further along that road than we are right now, because they still carry that burden of, I can't say this because white folk. Well, white folk expect me to act in a certain way, expect me to talk in a certain way. Fuck that.
Yeah. That's it right there. That they have an expectation. There is a demand, even if it is not expressed, even if no one ever said anything to them about that, they are almost on autopilot doing what they perceive to be the bidding of white folk, of what's going to please them. There's something to be said for that. And we're talking about something that has been ingrained, socialized, what have you, in your mind. And when you begin to talk about this idea of black militancy, and this is one of the things that I've spent a lot of time over the years thinking about. I believe that those of us who are quote unquote militant, we're not built like the others. You can say we have a different soul, a different heart, a different mind, what have you. We're not built like they are. And one of the things that for me, I can speak for myself and only for myself, is that I got to be able to look at myself in the mirror in the morning, in the night and the morning. You cannot talk crazy to me and have me stand there and take it. I don't give a fuck who you are. That's not going to happen. But that's unusual, being honest with you, because I'll tell you, I'm tired of having backroom meetings after white folk have offended somebody and they said nothing, and then they'll come into my office and express all this indignation. Yo, why didn't you tell them? That's part of the problem. Mm-hmm. I have two colleagues that I really do respect who were in a meeting. They were in one of their offices just talking. And one of our white colleagues simply opened the closed door without knocking and basically said, "What y'all in here whispering about?" Mm. Now they brought it to me.
Mm.
to see what my perspective, what my view was. I said, "Oh, I want to know what y'all said or did to him."
Hmm.
And they went into, "Oh, it's a professional environment, blah blah blah." Well, if it's a professional environment, he has no business busting into your office,
Exactly.
and you should have expressed to him how you felt about that. I had a
Hmm.
colleague who actually tried to do that with me, to bust into my office, and he did bust in my office.
Mm.
And I said, "Look here, if you don't want something bad to happen up in here physically, leave back out of my office, stand in the hallway and knock on my door and wait for permission to come in here." And his look was, "What?" I said, "Get the F out of my office, go outside, because you don't just bust up in here." And he went
Hmm.
out into the hallway and began knocking on the door. I never gave permission to enter. Those are two different responses.
Right.
And I get it that there's a fear, there's a concern amongst national level Black leadership that if they do what is in their nature, innate to do as Black men, that they will receive harsh reprisals. And those harsh reprisals will come at an extreme cost. And they understand that there aren't many Black folk who have the ability or are willing to stand in the gap for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it comes. That's the problem. Because quite simply, we do not have enough people who are willing to stand in the gap for others, especially when they are righteous individuals, if that makes sense. Now, we'll try to stand in the gap for some fool that was robbing a convenience store and got shot down by the police. But when you're talking about your Black leadership, stand in the gap for them if they're truly Black leaders. Because quite simply, when you really think about it, if you really analyze this issue, the only thing that has allowed Minister Farrakhan to stand for so long is the tremendous backing that he has. If he didn't have the tremendous backing and have the machinery around him that allows him to independently get his message out, he could still be talking, but nobody would hear him because they would have canceled him. And so, to maintain that position for many quote unquote Black leaders who don't have the backing of Black folk, um, they're out there on their own. And that's just being honest. Because you have to get national, one is going to have to find a way to make it onto white media outlets, period. Especially before YouTube.
Well, we definitely have to do everything that we can to bring out that militant nature in Black men. And I say that because when we look at the threats that we're dealing with, and the white boy like to put up like he's the biggest and the baddest thing to ever walk the planet. But in reality, that's a goddamn lie. He ain't the biggest, he ain't the baddest thing that ever walked the planet. We are. And, as you said, Doc, institutions take down institutions.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to meet them on that battlefield. And so our people have to get that
Oh,
mindset.
I'm sorry for laughing, but I see things happening within I've seen things happen within Black education that are that would never happen to any other people. Having non-Black folk in charge of Black education, therefore in charge of what will be poured into the minds of Black folk. There's no way that you could go to a Jewish community and they would hire you to be in charge of their curriculum.
And that's why I said, Doc, and I say it again, that, you know, I don't think, even when the brother was talking about the talented 10,
the boys,
the boys, I don't think that'll ever come from those who are, you know, engaged in such a manner with the cracker.
mm-hmm.
Those that, you know, seek his approval. Those that revel in the I got those letters behind my name. I'm this, I'm that. Because they always bow down to the cracker. I mean, you just gave a perfect example of some of your colleagues that will bow down.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, they're not made the way that we are made. They'll never lead nobody nowhere. Just keep the ball of white so-called supremacy rolling.
Mm-hmm.
But it is those of us who believe and think our way, who are the real talented 10, are the real engines, are the real movers, are the real locomotive for our people to attach to get on and ride that train. Because it's only that train that's going to lead us to true freedom. And those that understand it, they know that on that ride means that you got to go face to face with your enemy. And that enemy ain't going to be looking to run away. See, this ain't no BS like what was the name of that, your boy, Jam Master Jay, where you get all of these black men together and you get their information. Next thing you know, the FBI come in and take all of the goddamn information.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna lead you, yeah. We're gonna come here and we're gonna do this and we're gonna lead you there. And then you got the police on one end, you got the other.
Whoa. You talking about the brother that was with the gun militia?
Yeah,
Not Run DMC's Jam Master J.
No, not that one.
Yeah, okay.
The one that's over the
love
not
hip hop.
fucking around crew.
Yeah, I love hip hop, so I had to get some clarity there.
Yeah, I'm talking about not fucking around crew. Now you lead them, you lead your so-called troops in a position where you got the cracker, the white, the police on this end, another military white group on your tail end, and you talking about, oh, well, we're going to come in there and we're going to do. If these motherfuckers show, then we going to go. But they showed up, and what the fuck you do? March your ass right on out the fucking way. March your ass right on out the fucking way. You do all that yada, all that big and bad bullshit just to get information on the people and have the FBI come and take it out your goddamn house. Now they got all y'all information.
Mm-hmm.
See, and this is why we got to be able to think clearly. Ain't nothing wrong with building no military. Ain't a damn thing wrong with doing it. But damn it, when you show up and you say, well, we're going to do this, you don't think that the cracker going to show an answer? You don't think that they're going to say, well, we're going to see. And then when they show up, then you march your ass out the way. Oh, we ain't, we don't want no smoke.
We ain't got it.
We don't want no problem. Nigga, please. A goddamn CIA, FBI, fucking birth going around just to get people who have guns so they'll know when the shit go down who to go to first.
Yeah.
That's all that shit was. You got to be able to see what the hell's going on. Now, Doc, you talked about in the beginning of the program, as I want to get back on track because I was getting a little bit off track. I want to get back on track. Militant doesn't mean that you have to have a weapon. Let me rephrase that. Does it mean you have to have a gun? Because your mind is a weapon.
No.
Does it mean that you have to have a physical gun in order to be a militant?
No. What you probably the only really prerequisites to militancy would be intellect, a heightened mind, I would argue, and backbone, the ability to speak unbridled truth to power, to be able to stand in some places where other people quake in their boots and to speak power. I mean, the truth of the matter is that we have a tremendous responsibility to speak not only truth to power, but to speak truth in life into our people and to inspire our people and to organize our people. One of the most difficult things to get people to understand, and this is probably the Achilles heel of our people, is that we like to be entertained. And the idea of being entertained, it is a poor substitute, but a substitute nonetheless for substantive information and guidance and leadership. And that's a problem because we allow these charismatic charlatans to stand in front of our people and to spout this rhetoric and the X, Y, and Z. And I call it mental masturbation sessions, because from the beginning to the very end, they never intended to do anything. They weren't going to produce anything. They're just talking. And if on the rare opportunity that they are able to get positioned so that they can put some of their plans in place, it becomes very clear that it was all a fraud, all foolishness. But it was enjoyable to do it. And we can name quote unquote leader after leader after leader who has done that, fleeced our people for years. And I mean for years, because most Black folk know something is wrong and they want to do their part. They want to help uplift us. Unfortunately, many unscrupulous individuals in our midst will take advantage of that. They do not adhere to the old Panther mantra that you don't even take a piece of thread from the people. Our people are riding the backs of our people, seeking fame and fortune so that they can give it back to white folk by getting a Rolls Royce, a Bentley, some type of decaying material accruement. And I yield, brother.
Doc, let me ask you this, because when you're out there and you're doing the work, you'll get noticed. The media will notice you and begin to come and pay you attention.
Mm-hmm.
Should you, as a Black militant, take correction, counsel from the media?
They're there to record what I say. They have no influence upon what I'm going to say. The only influence that they could possibly have on what I'm going to say when I'm out and about is via the question they ask. But beyond that, no, you have no pull, no say, no sway over what it is I'm going to say. Sit down and listen.
And I want to show a video. We're going to share and watch a video. Welcome, Maya. Welcome to the program. Peace and blessings. A video with Fred Hampton. Now, Fred Hampton was a young brother. He didn't even, correct me if I'm wrong, Doc, but he didn't reach his 30s, did he?
Oh, no, very, very young, charismatic brother. Fred Hampton had not, he'd only left Chicago, the city of Chicago, I think once in his life. On his way, he was being fast tracked to be the head of the Black Panther Party for Self Defense, the Central Committee of the Panthers. So now Hampton is young. Hampton's young, and I always refuse to in public to mention the name Fred Hampton without mentioning Mark Clark. Another young brother who was assassinated on that
Mhm.
night as well.
So we're going to and knowing that he was very young when he was murdered.
Mhm.
The media, you think that they come and interviewing you, that they're doing a good job and they on your friends and that, but they not your friends.
No,
They're not your buddies.
no.
I had gave strict orders once we got to Mississippi that when the media come, do not allow them around. I don't want them around me. I'm not going to do any interviews or anything like that, because I understood they're the weapon of the enemy, and the enemy uses them. But in this interview we're going to watch, Doc, I don't believe that Fred had that type of understanding when he's dealing with the media. But I think this clip is important because we can learn a lot from it. And so I want to play it, and let's go over it, uh, so we can get a good understanding, because we're all going to be faced with this. Ain't no ifs, ands, and buts about it. We're all going to be faced with this. So let me see. You can hear it, Doc? No. All right, let me do it a different way.
Party stand concerning the weathermen, the SDS?
We stand way back from the SDS and the weatherman, because we believe that the weatherman action is two actions. It's RIM 2 and weatherman. We think they call them both national action. We think that RIM 2 is national action, weatherman is national reaction. We think it is anarchistic, opportunistic, individualistic, it's chauvinistic, it's custoristic, and that's the bad part about it. It's custoristic in that its leaders take people into situations where the people can be massacred, and they call that revolution. And it's nothing but child's play, it's folly, and it's criminal because people can be hurt. We say that they're doing exactly what the pigs want them to do. When they take people down and just do nothing, play around, and the pigs are prepared for this, and they'll wipe all of those young people out. We think these people may be sincere, but they're misguided, they're muddleheads, and they're scatterbrains. The only way we can show them is to criticize them like we're doing right now, and then leave from here and go to the federal building and have a demonstration that's to educate, a demonstration that is disciplined and organized. And that's what we're going to have to do, and let them see the examples.
Tell me why you feel the approach of the SDS weatherman is wrong.
I feel it is wrong, just as I said before.
No, don't tell me just you said before. That's why I asked you again. Just answer straight, just in case we use this part.
I feel that it's wrong.
Let me ask you again. Why do you feel that the approach of the SDS weatherman is the wrong approach?
I feel that it's wrong because it's pig action. You see, they're doing exactly what the pigs want them to do. They're leading people into a situation where it's an astronomical situation, too great for the people to deal with. It's a situation where you got a bunch of mechanical pigs with 357 Magnums and shotguns and mechanical mace and all that type of thing. And then they're talking about they're going to carry on a revolutionary struggle. That's not revolution. It's insanity. It's madness. It's nostalgia, and it's a massacre. That's what potential massacre. That's what it is. And we don't support that because we've said all power to the people. All the power is manifested in the people. We don't have any people whose lives we believe that should be thrown away.
Has the weatherman SDS tried to get you to go on their side? Have you met with them, and what happened?
We met with the weatherman faction of SDS several times. We've had ideological struggles, and we have ideological differences. So what we did was we had the other faction of SDS that agreed with the Black Panther Party called for an alternate action, a well-disciplined action not to provoke pigs, an action not to talk about setting up confrontations with the pigs, because the people are not ready for confrontations. These confrontations that they have are premature. They're politically premature, and they're wrong because they commit people in a situation which they're not anywhere prepared for.
Well, why do you think the Weatherman SDS tried to link the Black Panther Party to its movement?
I don't know if it was actually the weathermen of SDS. I'd have to say that it was the establishment press that is nothing but a tool of Warden Nixon's machine. We call him Warden Nixon because the whole world is a penitentiary, and he's just a warden of the whole world. And you see, these people are just an arm that he uses for fascist oppression, you know. And I think today these fascist news media might have did that.
Now, briefly, how would you sum up what the Weatherman SDS is trying to do and what you think of what they're trying to do?
I'd say that basically they believe that white people need to learn how to struggle, that they believe that these white workers need to learn how to struggle through confrontations. I'd have to say that basically I believe that this is incorrect. I believe that white workers have been struggling. They're some of the most violent people in the world. I believe that what they need is they need a redirection in their ideology and in their politics. They need to know who to struggle against. The workers need to start to begin to learn that their job is to struggle against the bosses. And until they do this, then struggle is incorrect. It's like no struggle at all. We say that if you don't struggle correctly, you shouldn't struggle, but you should struggle. We said dare to struggle and you dare to win, dare not to struggle and you don't deserve to win, but we have to struggle properly.
What about the special approach of Weatherman, which seems to be violence?
Well, you see, I don't think it's really violence, you know what I mean? I think it's just a lot of folly, it's a lot of child's play. I think that to have violence, you've got to be able to cope with violence, you know what I mean? And that's what the Black Panther Party, a lot of people say we're violent. We're a self-defense organization that believes that the people should be educated what's going on. Yes, we do defend our offices and we do defend our homes. This is a constitutional right. Everybody has, there's nothing funny about that. The only reason they get mad at the Black Panther Party when they do it is for the simple reason that we're political. And they don't want to admit this. There are a lot of young organizations around, but we're a political organization. We're an organization that understands that politics is nothing but war without bloodshed, and war is nothing but politics with bloodshed. That it's just like you stretch something, and it goes, you can stretch things, they're going to be in another thing. If you stretch politics so long, it'll be war. And that's where we're at.
Well, then why do you feel it's so important for the Black Panther Party to disavow any real link with the Weatherman SDS?
I think it's important because there are a lot of people that watch the Black Panther Party for examples. They observe us and participate with us. And if we can be connected up with this, then it will be very unadvantageous to the people, and very unadvantageous to the struggle, in that people that claim to be revolutionary would be going down roads that they think might be revolution, but in fact they're not roads of revolution. They'll be going east when their intentions are going west. And also it's important because Chairman Bobby Seale is in town, and he's being tried by this fascist judge Adolf Hitler Hoffman, you know, and he's being tried without a lawyer. We've got to bring all of the attention and focus on this trial that we possibly can, so that people can understand that these people are more capable of building gas chambers than Hitler ever was capable of building gas chambers. And we're going to have to get together. We're going to have some anti-gas chamber marches, and some anti-fascism marches, and some anti-Hitler Hoffman marches, and some anti-Mussolini Attorney General Mitchell marches, and some anti-Daley and some anti-Hammerhead marches. These are the things we're going to have to do. People need to be educated. If they're educated, we can resist and we can stop this fascism.
All right, thanks for giving
Okay,
us
how
a shot. Okay, good. Okay. Okay.
Thanks. All right.
That's too hot, Bill. Too hot? No, Howard.
Fred, the Weatherman branch of the SDS seems to be giving the impression that the Black Panther Party is with them.
No, the Black Panther Party is not with weathermen. Let me explain very clearly that we believe that action like that is action of insanity. It's not a revolution even. You see, going out in the streets and getting people shot and killed and maimed, that's insanity.
Okay, as you can see, Doc, they're going back over the interview and re-asking him the same damn questions all over again so that they could achieve their aim and their purpose. So a lot of what Fred Hampton was saying in his talk, very wordy, reminded me of what's that nigga name? Um, uh, what is his name? Who used like to use big words all the damn time. Uh,
Ti,
who?
Ti,
No, not Ti. Not Ti. The other
Michael
nigga.
Eric, Michael Eric Dyson.
Yeah, that nigga. That nigga. That nigga. Boy, I had to jump in his collar one day on goddamn Twitter. But anyway, so our young brother, um, in his verbiage that he chooses to use, but it's very interesting how the media had a definite, determined idea of that whole interview was to get him to say things negative against the weatherman, even to the point of stopping it. Oh, I'm asking you again because I want you to say da da da. There's different ways. For me, my thing of dealing with them is don't allow them around me, period. But for those who choose to allow them that space, what constructive instructions would you give them just by watching the video that we just watched? Because I don't think that video, that interview really served, um, Fred Hampton or the Black Panther Party any real credit in it. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, as far as dealing with the media, that really is a personal choice, and it brings out people's either the best or the worst in you when you're dealing with them. When I did the opening lecture for the Gordon Parks Black Power symposium down at the Houston Museum of Fine Arts, the media was there, and they wanted to talk, and they wanted to interview me, and I just simply answer the question, the little infantile questions that they had. That's my way. I don't just go on and on with them. I'll answer what you ask, and I'm going to answer it once. I'm not going to go back over. You're not going to use my stuff for sound bites. Um, Hampton, in that situation, let's be very clear of what was occurring. I want to say it was they referred to it as the Days of Rage in Chicago, where SDS was considered the radical white boys.
Right.
But within SDS, you had these even more radical white boys, the Weathermen, who were anarchists. And they basically wanted to cause trouble and discord wherever they could. The Panthers, being really the only national Black Powerite group that would willingly form alliances, significant alliances with white folk, found themselves with SDS and the Weathermen. And you have to remember that it's in Chicago where Bobby Seale is going to be bound and gagged in a courtroom. He's going to be tried with other members of SDS and the Weathermen. So you have that going on. So in many ways, if you put Hampton's comments within that larger context, they are of some use as far as a PR media type of thing, where he's trying to, in many ways, separate the Panthers from the Weathermen, which would be if the court of public opinion has anything to say about the verdict in the trial, he's in many ways helping Bobby Seale by creating some separation between the two. And it also, and I think that is also useful for another reason, because it gives us a further insight into the ideological leanings and philosophies of Huey P. Newton, who I believe was a genius. That it's okay to form alliances with white folk, but the moment they need to go left when we need to go right, the alliance is over. And Hampton, in his leadership style, as talkative as he is in many ways kind of endorsing that very thing right there. That we have some association with SDS with the weathermen, but at the exact same time, we have our own thing that we have going on. And I yield, brother.
Okay. And so I want to make it clear: the weathermen or SDS, one of them. You can correct
There are two groups. SDS, the Students for a Democratic Society. These are like, it's like a more radicalized white version of SNCC when SNCC adopted Black Power. But within SDS, you you got you got these wild white boys who to this day are wild. Okay, many of them never conformed with the dominant society. They're far out there. I interviewed four members of the Weathermen when I was doing my book on the Panthers. These wild white boys, and I'll give it to you just like they gave it to me. Okay, the Weathermen were arrested, indicted, tried, and convicted for trying to blow up Wall Street, the Statue of Liberty, and the Mall of America. Now, I'm sitting here interviewing them, I'm like, do I have to be on acid to understand what it is the fuck y'all talking about? Because I literally had, it's one of the strangest interviews I've ever done. I had no idea what they were talking about. Okay. And I'm looking at them, and I guess they're reading the bewildered look on my face, because I'm trying to figure out, what does the Statue of Liberty, Wall Street, and the Mall of America have to do together? Have to do with each other? And they tried to blow them all up on the same day. These idiots lean back, just like this. Just think about it. It'll come to you. Just think about it. I had no idea what the fuck they was talking about. To this day, I don't know what the Mall of America, Wall Street, and the Statue of Liberty have to do with each other. But in their wild, crazy, acid-filled, hippie minds, those were revolutionary acts. So in many ways, what you're talking about when you talk about that particular moment right there of Chicago, the Democratic National Convention was in Chicago in '68. And a few Panthers and a bunch of white folk got arrested for being anti-war activists for disrupting the Democratic National Convention. So in many ways, what Hampton is saying is helpful, but also the interview thing, they're trying to get snippets and sound bites, and they're going to continue to ask you the same thing over and over and over and over again until you say it in a way that they can cut it up and they can use it as a snippet.
Now we talked about the Black man's nature, and I'm sharing this next stream because the militant Black man is a problem for our enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're looking at the Justice Department. This is from their website. And in there, they have had this annual Congress of correction officers, correction associates, and all of this stuff. So these are the people that's running the prisons.
Yeah, Congress.
So they're talking about Black militants in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And so it says, difficulties encountered by correctional institutions in attempting to work with angry Black militants and suggestions for handling these individuals. So they don't give us the full realm of what they talked about. They just give us a little abstract version, but we can get from it what they were trying to talk, what they were trying to do. Let me blow this up a little bigger. So it says, abstract. These individuals reveal paranoid personality structures, often exhibiting proactive and aggressive behavior. 3 cases are furnished to illustrate the magnitude of the problem. A course in Black history and training programs for correctional personnel consisting of workshops, lectures, and supervised practical experience are being described as effective approaches to working with Black militants. So they're trying to figure out how to work with the Black militants. And I take issue with how they say how to work with, and what they're really saying is how to control the Black militant. So there's 2 things that they're going to do. They're going to teach their officers. They're going to teach their officers the little Black history, and then they want to be able to move the militant from being a militant to being what I would call a softie. Somebody that's not militant, somebody that's more pliant, somebody that's more movable, workable. That doesn't have that that strictness with them. So Doc, my question to you is, if they don't want the Black militancy, or better, before I even get to that part, let me ask you this, because you're in a controlled environment in prison. You don't have the freedoms that you would have out in the world. Why is there a problem with the Black militant from a prison perspective? Why should the Black militant give the prison officials such a harsh time that the Department of Justice had to do this thing?
Okay, several things about it. 1960s. To understand what we're looking at right there, we got to look at the 1960s and deal with the idea of identity politics, where the civil rights movement is going to fracture, and you're going to have the LGBTQ plus the alphabet people there. You're going to have feminism. You're going to have womanism. You're going to have the Chicano movement. All of these groups are going to begin to agitate for rights. Part of the Black Power era is, and this was Angela Davis's big thing, the prisoner rights movement. Okay. And you got to remember, Watts explodes in 65. The Panthers are founded in 66. Okay. One of the offshoots of one of the parts of the Black Panther Party and really the Black Power movement was actually going to be prisoner rights, where you have these brothers who are locked down. And Brother Malcolm talks about this in the autobiography of Malcolm X, that there's probably no better place for you to become politicized than in prison. And he says it may be better than college, because quite simply, you're not going to have a situation where you're going to be distracted by panty raids and those types of things. Okay. So you have these prisoners being locked up. And by the late 1960s, the Black Guerrilla family. The Black Guerrilla family is actually an offshoot of, they're the politicized wing of the Black Panther Party in prison. And the most notable member was, of course, remember we talked about Black August, George Jackson. Okay. That's part of what you're looking at right there. You're looking at the politicization of Black prisoners. And there's a fear by the late 1960s that if they are politicized, that they're going to be a terror to deal with. That's one angle of it. this thing is going to continue to build up all the way up into 1971 when you had the Attica prison uprisings, where they ended up killing them brothers up in that prison up in upstate New York. But this is a means of learning more about them. And of course, that knowledge that you're learning about them, you're going to use for your benefit, but also you're going to use um, what you learn as a way to kind of control them, but you're also going to try to usurp the politicization process that they're going through by infusing it with some of your own teachings and learnings. But this is Angela Davis's thing. This is the prison rights movement.
Mm. So we can assume that by them putting a big pressure there to learn it, control it, even in that type of environment, that black people that have a militant, that accepts their militant nature and carry it out, are even more of a threat in the outside, in the free world. Would that be correct?
I would take issue with allowing prisons to dictate what militancy is, because in their world, militancy is being just disruptive in regards to the daily operations of the prison. Outside, when you're talking about militancy, I would hope under the best case scenario that our understanding of militancy far exceeds that and goes into not only um, being the town crier that tries to make everyone aware of what's going on, to also elected officials who are going in there and actually creating opportunities and programs and what have you. The same thing with the entrepreneurial class. I think that we need to elongate and expand the idea of black militancy and remove it away from being, to use one of your favorite peoples in the world, Quan LX, whereas we wind up seeing the black militant being kind of a caricature, a race man, a race hustler
Mm-hmm.
that is really of no. He's sounding brass and cymbals, but he's not getting anything accomplished. I think that we need to really take a look at what is the outcome that we want, and then how do we achieve that goal, that outcome that we say that we want, and to allow an outside entity to come in and to say, well, you're a militant, we have to reject that, or you're not a militant, we have to reject that. We have to define things for ourselves, to define and create our own reality to allow us to move forward.
And so and I believe you did give it. I don't believe. I know you gave it in the beginning of the program. But for those who are just joining us, that missed your definition of the current day, present day black militant, what is that definition, Doc?
I mean, the current day black militant is one who is courageous enough and informed enough, with an enlightened mind and the courage and heart that only God can give you, to speak truth to power, regardless of who's in the room and who you're addressing. You have been giving an opportunity, I won't call it an unprecedented opportunity, because David Walker, Nat, Gabriel, Denmark, all of them also had this opportunity as well, and they capitalized upon it. But to represent those who need to be represented, okay, and to understand that, and this is probably the crux of things, is, and I often rely upon Huey P. Newton's constructs, and Huey's construct of the revolutionary being a doomed man, because if he fails, he'll die on the battlefield. If he succeeds, his people will be free, and he'll be of no use to anyone, especially not to them going forward. So either way, win or loss, he's going to be doomed. Um, Militants have to have that understanding that you're not executing this revolution for you to receive the fruits of it, that you're actually doing this for future generations.
Definitely, definitely. And so, Doc, since we're doing this for future generations, and the KKK, Ku Klux Klan. Now, I want to be clear.
Who are doing theirs for their future generations.
Exactly. Now, the KKK, Ku Klux Klan, the skinheads, the what they call the white front movement, all of these different neo-Nazi,
The Proud Boys,
Proud Boys, all of these groups.
who missing a leader right now.
Now, they are, in your estimation, is there any difference between the KKK, Proud Boys, the National Front, Nationalists, Neo, whatever, crackers? Is there any difference? Is any one of the groups smarter than the other group? Is any one of the group more dangerous than the other group?
I don't know enough about each and every one of those groups to comment intelligently on that. So I just throw them all in the same basket. Mm-hmm. But the difference between them, I look at their movements as being those of the oppressor trying to oppress other groups, and I look at groups like the Panthers. I look at some of these Black liberation groups as being those who are hopefully fighting for liberation. It would be akin to if someone, God forbid, broke into your house and attacked you, trying to subdue you, and you grabbed a knife and stabbed them 31 times. You can't be considered as violent as they were. They were the aggressor, and you're trying to defend yourself and liberate yourself so you can live another day.
Now, there was a group of them that was marching, and I believe it was in Florida. Yeah, they was marching in Florida. They had stuff that go on in Boston. Peace and blessings, Sister Cassie. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Can't wait to be with you on Saturday. And so these white groups have decided to come out now, mm-hmm. and be more vigilant, to be more vocal, to be more visible. And they're marching in different cities, and we're going to talk about it on Saturday, where they're showing who they are and what they are about. So their resurgence isn't by accident. It isn't by happenstance. It is planned. It is part of their quote unquote progress. Because in their mind, correct me if I'm wrong, Doc, they have to scare Black people back into their homes. That would be one of their goals, to scare us back into our homes. Ever since we've had the Montgomery Brawl, things are beginning to happen to different Black people, and we'll talk about it more on Saturday. But what I want to show is that they have an organized response. And I believe part of that goal is to scare Black people back into your shell, back into your household, to be quiet, to begin to suffer peacefully. What's your thoughts on that, Doc?
When you look at the elongated history of organized white terrorism, one, in the post-slavery period, the signature group founded in 1865, Pulaski, Tennessee, the Ku Klux Klan. Their uniform of wearing sheets is predicated upon tapping into fears of Black folk, that we are a superstitious people, and they wanted us to believe that these ghosts that were on horseback were actually fallen Confederate soldiers who had come back to exact revenge. Um, so the idea of scaring Black folk back into submission, I can understand that, but at the exact same time, I recognize that it's not going to be successful, and it's really only going to be applied in areas where they're the majority population. Here in Houston, um, I work out in the country. There's a Bucky's, which is, if you've never seen a Bucky's, oh, you're missing out. A humongous supermarket slash gas station. Um, you go out there and they're literally you'll find hundreds, and I'm talking about 200-300 big old jacked up pickup trucks with pro-Trump flags, and they have their own little rally, but they don't bring their ass down to the 3rd and the 5th ward of Houston. Those brothers down there, they're completely unaware that any of that is happening. So you have a element of them. This is what they do, and we know that this is what they do. And we just have to be forever vigilant for physical violence, but we also need to be very vigilant and be even more violent than they are when it comes to casting ballots and votes, and also organizing and holding those we elected feet to the fire in regards to doing our bidding without any consideration for anybody else, because that's exactly what they do.
Definitely. And, I just want to go back because Maya had asked us, and we had discussed, in fact, into the program, I think that was before she had got on. But we discussed that group and their leader. And my position on that is that, yeah, we do need a militia, but you don't take your militia out and before the world unless you're about to do business. I've been against that whole thing from day one, because I knew that it wasn't going to lead to anything.
Didn't one of them shoot themselves?
Yeah. Yeah, sure did. More than one, actually. And when the leader went to quote unquote jail, then the FBI swoop in and get up all the information on everybody. So, look, the enemy knows what time it is. And so you get one who come out, and I'm not even going to get into his background. I'm not even going to go there. But, just enough to know that all of that information that he gathered that was willingly given up on our brothers and sisters, all of that information is in the hands of the FBI. And when the shit go down, those people will be gathered up first. We'll be one of the ones, those that are gathered up first. So we got to be more smarter than that. We definitely have to be smarter than that, because we are at war, and we cannot allow the enemy to use our aggression, to use our motivations, and just let it steer us right straight there into your hands, into their hands. We can't do that. We have to be smarter than that. That's the only way that we're going to be able to win. We got to be able to outsmart your enemy. Now, a lot of things that you got to realize, some of us celebrate Kwanzaa. Hell, that was created by the enemy and given to you, and you still talking about you celebrating Kwanzaa. We got to be able to understand and know the fake from the real, because war is all about deceit. and it'll grab you. He will grab you because he knows your motivation and he knows your love and he knows what time it is. He's expecting us to be able to rise. So he wants to make sure he knows exactly where to go and get. We have to be smarter than that. Just simple, plain. But we'll get more into that in later videos as we continue this topic about the militant nature. Because as we said, there will be, and that day is vastly approaching, there will be that fight. And it ain't no sideline for nobody. Everybody play a part in that fight. Everybody. And so you got to get your area, get it together, and do what need to be done before that time occurs. We don't want to be caught flat-footed. We don't want to be caught not knowing what's going on, what we need to do. We don't want to be caught like that. So it's important that you understand your own militant nature of the Black man and the Black woman. Doc, why is the mind of the militant the most perfect weapon that the militant has?
Because it's the center of courage, creativity, commitment. Some way, somehow, those of us who have found our way into being, and once again, I hate the word militant. I prefer a whole host of different words instead of militant. One could call us righteous. One could call us steadfast. One could call us race men, which is the term I personally prefer. But race men, some way, somehow, were able to either cleanse their mind at some point or to escape having been blessed enough to be raised up within nationalistic confines, around authentic Black people, within a real Black community. We've been able to keep our righteous mind, to not go insane, which is the mental state of many of our people. So I really think that being a militant is a blessed position from God. It is a doomed position, but it is a blessed position. And it's always a hell of a ride for us.
Definitely. All right, family. Well, we are at our time. We're going to go ahead and move to closing comments, but we will be with y'all on Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here live and in person. And Sister Cassie will be back with us. She's getting back into the country, but I'll let Sister Cassie, if she wants to go into that, tell everybody about her trip, because I know I do want to hear it. I definitely want to hear it. So, Doc, closing comments. In your closing comments, I would like for you to address what you should be teaching your children about the time that we're going into, when you're dealing with, we just talked about last week, you had a white man come to the church and the church was packed, but because it was packed, they didn't let him in. And if he would have got in, he would have did some real damage. What would you tell your child in a time like this? Because I've seen on different TikTok where people were saying, you shouldn't tell your children anything negative. You shouldn't tell them about the world that we actually live in. And I thoroughly disagree. But what's your thoughts on that? And make that end with your closing comments.
As a father, I have a son who has reached the age of 20 years old far too fast. Far too fast. I wish he was 2 instead of 20. I'll address this to him. Son, I love you. And I love you enough to tell you the truth, that you are a Black man in a hostile white nation that would love nothing greater than to exterminate you and other members of our family. young black boys, young black girls, your nieces, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, everyone that is associated with you. I need you to understand that first off, you are the greatest that God has ever created. And my submission to God mandates that I protect you at all costs. And don't ever be confused into thinking that I hate others. It's not hatred of others that you're seeing. It is an unbridled, unending, unconscionable love for you that causes for me to position myself to eradicate anybody who even appears to be a threat to you. And it's that love, that's such a strong love that we have to have for each other, for one another, that will be our salvation. We have to love each other to aid each other. We have to love each other to tell each other the truth. We have to love each other so much that we can tell each other when we are in error. Love. And love so much that you build for each other, that you support each other. And you understand that what I'm doing may partially be for you, but it's also for your children and your children's children and their children and their children. My love it's unending. It's impossible for me not to love you in the earthly realm or in the heavenly realm. Heed what I am saying and watch and walk in those shoes when it is your turn to walk in those shoes. And then you'll understand truly what love is. Love for your people, love for your family, love for your children, and love for yourself. And I yield.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Doc. Thank you. All right, family. Here you have it. Don't forget, we'll be with you all tomorrow, 7 o'clock Central. Same back channel. Same.
No, 7 o'clock Eastern.
Oh, yeah. Did I sure did say Central, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I mean, that's that Eastern bias that y'all have. Y'all think that everybody is on y'all time. Everybody's not on the Eastern Standard Time Zone. I mean, it's maddening, you know, and I feel for my brothers and sisters out in Cali because they got to wake up at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning to watch the NFL, the first game. 6 o'clock Central, people, 7 o'clock Eastern.
7 o'clock Eastern.
5 o'clock Mountain.
And as we always say, you kill the nigga in you, I'm gonna kill the nigga in me, and our God will reign supreme. We are Black first, today, tomorrow, and forever. Love you, family. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum and shalom.
Peace.
Peace.
So you better get the message and get it straight. You're gonna need some bridge work. It's simple as that. Because we're living in judgment. We're living in implementation.